Hey, it's Greg Harrelson here with Myrtle Beach Real Estate TV. Of course, I'm affiliated, work with Century 21, the Harrelson Group, and my co-host here, Abe Safa, also with Century 21, the Harrelson Group. It's that time again to just share some information and share some data as to what's going on in the market. Of course, we are about a week away, maybe a little bit over a week, maybe 9 days away from Christmas. I'm happy to say that we are continuing to make sales, closing a lot of transactions. The calls are getting the next couple of days and the next week, the calls are will be a little bit lower. And the appointments will definitely decline next week, but a lot of people are rushing to get properties closed. They're rushing to negotiate the contracts that are kind of hanging out there. And not enough properties are coming on the market. I guess that's what we're probably seeing. Would you agree, Abe?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is just not enough inventory to justify the demand that's out there, or to fulfill the demand, I should say.
Yeah, and I don't think that's going to change. I mean, we've been talking about inventory levels are critically low, and when I say critically low, I mean the market actually needs to have inventory. The economy needs transactions, real estate to trade. They need those transactions because every time there's a transaction, you got to think about it. There's a home inspector, there's an insurance agent, there's a painter, there's a floor person, there's Lowe's, there's the person who works at Lowe's. You could go on and on and on at the dozens and dozens of people that benefit financially when a real estate transaction closes. So if we don't have inventory and builders can't replenish inventory fast enough, that does put a little bit of a damper on the economy. Now, of course, I'm not talking about any kind of crash or shift and whatnot, but I just want to remind people there's more than just a real estate agent, a buyer, and a seller involved in the transaction. There's quite a few people involved. So, anything that you can note on right now, Abe, before we get into the numbers, maybe that you're noticing just the week or week and a half prior to Christmas?
Yeah, I mean, I am seeing a slowdown in activity. Of course, the inventory issue, as we talked about, but less showings this past week or so. But I think it's very typical. Going into the Christmas, everybody's a little bit busy right now and a little bit distracted with the holiday season and buying gifts and things like that.
Yes,
I think it's normal.
Yeah, I got to go get some gifts myself, but I'm going to do it in the afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go through the numbers. I mean, there's not a lot to report just because of the fact that it is a week and a half before Christmas. Other than the numbers, so let's go ahead and look at the numbers and see what we come up with.
Yeah, the numbers are still, very strong pendings relative to what's on the market right now. Single family homes, excuse me, across the board. So it finally dipped below 50%. So that number's been above 50% for a while now. I mean, nothing to be concerned about. Definitely not seeing a trend here or anything like that. But not as many homes have hit the market over the last week as have closed, right? So the ones that we've had pending, they're starting to close, but we're not replenishing them quick enough.
Yeah. So when we look at the dip, I don't know if you know what last week was, but was the change of the number, and it might have been both, but was there a bigger change in the number of properties on the market, or was it the pendings went down because so many closed? What do you think, just in such a small snapshot of time, the biggest dip? The dip probably came from which one of those?
Well, it came from both, right? Last week it was 50.57%. Last week there was 5,074 total homes on the market.
Okay.
So that number dropped a little bit, and there was 2,566 pending that dropped. That dropped to 2,491.
Yeah. So whenever something closes, not only does the pending number go down, but the on market number can go down too. So so the pending. So this probably has more to do with there's just more closings taking place in the last few weeks than new inventory coming onto the market. I think that's what it boils down to.
Exactly. Yeah. So then they're closing at a faster pace than new ones are hitting the market to replace them.
Yes, closing and pending, and pending, I guess, faster than the new ones. Okay, cool. What's next?
We're going to break it down by just resales. So let's look at that. Existing home sales, resales, 44.91%. So last week that was 46.06%. So A little bit of a drop, very similar to just the overall single family home number.
Yeah.
I think same scenario.
You know, one thing that we've talked about a little bit. We talked about the concept of seasonality.
Mhm.
And if you look at these numbers, I mean, we're talking about your previous slide. I think it was about a 0.7 of a percent change, and this one here is about 1%, 1.4%, somewhere in that range change. Like that's hardly anything. Like that change shows you that our market is stable all year round. That's what this is showing us, and the little bit of change has to do a lot to do with next week. All the attorneys are closed, so everyone's trying to get the closings done this week, last week, this week, and then the week right before the new year. So people are really scurrying. They're rushing to get them closed. So we're going to see a little bit of dip in these percentages. And for me, it's just because all the attorneys are trying to rush and get them closed before the new year. A lot of people, there's tax considerations as to why they want to have it closed in 2020 versus 2021. So there's more emphasis on the closing date. But besides that, there's nothing that the month of December or Christmas or Thanksgiving, there's no evidence in the data that shows that around the holidays, things necessarily slow down.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I mean, we're still getting offers on the properties that are out there. I think we do get a little bit less showings, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the ones that are looking are a lot more serious.
Yeah.
So you get less tire kickers right now at this time of year. So it's still really strong, and I'm not seeing a big dip because of the holidays and because of Christmas.
I mean, it's not showing up in the numbers at least.
No. And let's take a peek at new construction real quick. So 54.81. Last week it was 55.09. Again, same change, pretty much between all three. So, but we are. I'm seeing. I don't know if you're seeing this or not, but I'm seeing a good bit more of a push by developers to try to get some more properties built. Are you seeing that at all, or?
Yeah, well, I think yes, I'm seeing it. So when we see it means if we're seeing it based on signs going up, or we see more houses being built. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, no, I was actually looking at new construction applications. I should have brought the report with me, but it was a report I looked at last week where that number seemed to have gone up, and I think.
You mean permit request?
Yeah, permit request.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. So permit request is going to be an early indicator. So what the permit request comes after they've already went in and acquired land. Typically, they require or acquire land. They do a bunch of stuff, due diligence, etc. Get the land, the dirt moved, and start building in infrastructure. Then they start pulling permits. So yes, I would say that it would be logical that we would see those increase in permits. Obviously, it's fact because you've seen a report on that, and that's exactly what should be happening, because it just takes a while for the builders to have an impact on the inventory. So they're going. Listen, inventory levels will not stay this low. They will not stay this low. That's why we keep saying, if you're thinking about selling, maybe you should give us a call, because they will not stay this low. The reason why they won't stay this low is the economy needs transactions to take place, because a real estate transaction has a major impact on so many people in the economy. So the builders are going to build, and at some point they're going to level off the inventory. When we see the leveling off of the inventory, then what we'll likely see is resales. People that have resales won't be able to price their property as aggressive as they have been. In other words, it'll be more competitive. Now, we don't know when that's going to come. That's why that's market timing. Like any agent that tells you they know when that's going to happen, that would be inaccurate. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. It's kind of like the stock market. It's actually controlled by supply and demand. And so at some point, the inventory will go down. We knew it would. It hasn't really gone down yet, But the fact that permits are being pulled, that tells us we're closer to it, because permits are pulled right before the builder starts building going vertical. That means we're going to start to see an increase in 2x4s and plywood, throughout the communities. That's what will happen. Prior to permits, by the way, just to kind of go a little bit deeper, prior to permits, what we see is an increase of amount of dirt being moved in the county. So before the permit, you see a lot of dirt being moved. Then the permit. Once you see the permit, then you see a lot of plywood and 2x4s going up.
Yeah. And so, I mean, the builders, they're in the business of selling homes, right? So they're seeing this opportunity out there that there's a high demand and not enough supply. So they're going to push and try to get some homes built and capitalize on that opportunity. Yeah.
They'll balance out supply over time. They always do. As a matter of fact, they'll balance it out. And then at some point, the pendulum swings the other way, and then we kind of have a counterbalance where now we're oversupplied. That's kind of like where we see those 10-year cycles where we, it's like, man, it's good right now, and then it slowly it's not so good, and then 10 years later, it's like really bad, and then it slowly gets better, and then it's really good. We just go back and forth in cycles.
Yeah. All right, let's look at the condo market real quick. So 35% of all condos out there under contract right now. Last week, it was 36.9, so that's almost a 2% drop. 2,927 condos on the market last week, and there was 1,080 pending. So we've seen a good bit closed this past week. Dropped down to 2,863, only 1,000 pending. Still a very strong number, but again, it's the same thing that where they're closing at a quicker rate than they're being replenished.
Yes. Yeah. And I would imagine on the condo market, there are some people that have been trying to sell that fell off the market. Maybe they expired, and they're holding it off the market for a couple weeks, and then they'll probably flood the market back in January and February is when they'll all come right back on the market. So it'll be interesting for those of you that are kind of paying attention to these charts and our dialogues here. Is we should see January and February and March, we should see number of new listings hitting the market increase. Now we'll have to see how what the pace of the new contracts are to determine will this number continue to hold, will it go up or will it go down? But we know that we're going to see more listings come on the market in January, February, March. No question about that. If there's anything seasonality, the seasonality has to do more with how many people list their property, more so than how many buyers are buying property. It's more seasonality, more influences the sellers, and that's all just for a lack of knowing. The reality is the best time to have your property on the market is when everyone else is taking their property off the market, because now you have the supply. You are the inventory. It's not oversupplied. So when it's oversupplied, then sellers have to compete for the buyer, and the way they compete is lower their price. When there's low inventory, the buyers have to compete for the property, and the way they compete is actually paying a higher price.
Absolutely. Looking at the oceanfront condo, 22.63%. Last week it was 23.67, so not a major change there. But still a very strong number for this time of year. And let's look at the land. The land was actually the only one that went up a little bit compared to last week.
Okay.
So 16.91. Last week it was 16.71. So we haven't seen that one dip a little bit at all. So overall, still a very strong market. Again, if you're a seller, this is the opportunity, as Greg mentioned a few minutes ago. Come first of the year, January, February, March, we typically will see inventory go up. It happens every single year. I even think in this market, the way the market's been, I think we'll still see a bump in inventory. There's no question in my mind. So this is an opportunity right now to have less competition out there.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, hey, I just want to say for those of you that are listening, thank you so much for listening, and want to wish you happy holidays and wish you a Merry Christmas. And hopefully you'll continue to tune in with us. We will continue these updates. We will do one actually next week, which is the week of Christmas. We'll get that done just to keep consistent. But we know some of you will be probably preoccupied with shopping, eating, family, etc. So Abe, thank you so much. we'll continue this next week.
Absolutely. Take care, Greg.
Bye bye.